The rain felt like needles against Logan Mitchell's skin as he stood on the sidewalk, watching security guards carry boxes of his personal belongings out of the building that had been his second home for 12 years. His building. His company. His life's work. Everything he had built was being stripped away, piece by piece, in front of dozens of cameras and reporters shouting questions he couldn't answer. Mr. Mitchell, did you steal from your investors? Logan, where's the missing $20 million? Is it true you've been living a double life? He wanted to scream that it was all lies, that Vincent Torres, his business partner and supposed best friend, had orchestrated everything. But his lawyer had warned him, say nothing until the investigation is complete. So Logan stood there, soaked to the bone, watching his reputation dissolve like sugar in water. The security guard he'd personally hired 3 years ago wouldn't meet his eyes as he handed over a cardboard box. Inside were the few personal items from his office: a photo of his parents who'd passed away 5 years ago, his college diploma, a coffee mug that said "World's Best Boss," that his assistant had given him as a joke. Everything else had been seized as evidence. His phone buzzed constantly with messages, but when he looked, they weren't offers of support. They were cancellations. The charity gala where he was supposed to be honored? Cancelled. His membership at the country club? Revoked. Dinner plans with people he'd called friends for years? Radio silence, followed by blocked numbers. Logan's hands shook as he tried to hail a taxi, but 3 passed without stopping. Word traveled fast in this city. Even cab drivers didn't want to be associated with him. His penthouse apartment was already locked down by court order, his cars impounded, his bank accounts frozen pending investigation. He had exactly $47 in his wallet and nowhere to go. The rain came down harder, mixing with tears he didn't realize he was crying. At 42 years old, Logan Mitchell had nothing. Worse than nothing. He had a reputation as a thief, a liar, a man who'd stolen from the people who trusted him. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter when the evidence had been so carefully fabricated. His legs gave out somewhere between 5th and 6th Avenue. One moment he was walking, the next he was on his knees on the wet concrete, the cardboard box spilling its contents across the sidewalk. The coffee mug shattered. He watched the pieces scatter and thought that was exactly what his life looked like now. Broken, scattered, impossible to put back together. "Mommy, that man is sad." The voice was small, young, concerned. Logan looked up through the rain to see a little girl, maybe 5 years old, holding a woman's hand. The child wore a bright red raincoat with a hood, and she was staring at him with the kind of unfiltered compassion that only children possess. "Sienna, baby, we need to keep walking," the woman said softly. She was young, late 20s maybe, with kind eyes and an expression that held both caution and sympathy. "But he's crying, Mommy. He needs help." Logan tried to stand, to wave them off, to preserve whatever dignity he had left. But his body wouldn't cooperate. The stress, the betrayal, the complete destruction of everything he'd known had finally caught up with him. His vision blurred, his chest tightened, and he heard the woman gasp as he collapsed forward. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" The woman's voice was close now, urgent but calm. He felt small hands on his arm and realized the little girl had knelt beside him in the rain. "Don't worry, mister. My mommy helps people. She's really good at it." Logan wanted to tell them to leave, to protect themselves from being associated with him, but he couldn't form words. The woman was checking his pulse, asking him questions he couldn't process. He heard her on the phone, calling someone, and then other voices, more hands helping him up. The next hours passed in a blur. He was vaguely aware of being in a small apartment, lying on a couch that had seen better days. A damp towel was pressed to his forehead. The little girl, Sienna, sat cross-legged on the floor nearby, watching him with serious eyes. "You fainted," the woman explained when Logan's vision finally cleared. "I'm Rachel. Rachel Williams. This is my daughter, Sienna. You were on the sidewalk in the rain and you collapsed." Logan tried to sit up, but Rachel gently pushed him back down. "Not yet. You need to rest. When's the last time you ate?" He couldn't remember. Yesterday? The day before? Time had lost meaning when his world fell apart. "I thought so." Rachel disappeared into what Logan assumed was the kitchen. He could hear her moving around, the sound of a microwave beeping. The apartment was tiny, maybe a quarter the size of his walk-in closet had been. But it was clean, warm, and filled with evidence of a child's presence. Colorful drawings on the refrigerator, toys organized in bins, a bookshelf overflowing with picture books. "Are you a prince?" Sienna asked suddenly, tilting her head. "You look like a prince. But princes don't usually cry." "Sienna," Rachel called from the kitchen, her tone gentle but warning. "It's okay, Logan managed, his voice rough. I'm not a prince. I'm just someone who made a lot of mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, Sienna said matter-of-factly. Mommy says that's how we learn to be better. Rachel returned with a bowl of soup and crackers. Logan's instinct was to refuse, to leave, to not burden these strangers with his problems. But Sienna was looking at him with such hope, and Rachel was holding out the bowl with such simple kindness, that he found himself accepting it with shaking hands. Thank you, he whispered, and meant it more than he'd meant anything in years. Eat, Rachel said, settling into a worn armchair across from the couch. Then we'll figure out what comes next. Logan took a sip of the soup. It was canned, simple, nothing like the five-star meals he was accustomed to. But at that moment, it tasted like salvation. As he ate, he noticed Rachel watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Not pity. Something else. Understanding, maybe. I saw you on the news, she said quietly, glancing at Sienna, who had moved to the small dining table to color. I don't know if what they're saying is true or not. But I know what it's like to have nowhere to go. I know what it's like when everyone turns their back on you. Logan set down the bowl, his appetite gone despite his hunger. You shouldn't have helped me. It could cause you problems. The media, The media doesn't know you're here, Rachel interrupted. And even if they did, I don't care. My daughter saw someone who needed help and she was right. That's all that matters. But why? Logan's voice cracked. You don't know me. For all you know, everything they're saying is true. I could be dangerous. I could be. Are you? Rachel asked simply. No. Then that's enough. Logan stared at this woman who had less than nothing, who lived in a tiny apartment with her daughter, who worked 2 jobs if the multiple uniforms hanging by the door were any indication, and who had just taken in a complete stranger accused of stealing millions. It made no sense. In his world, people only helped when there was something to gain. But Rachel was offering help with no expectation of return, and Logan didn't know how to process that. You can stay here tonight, Rachel continued. The couch pulls out. It's not much, but it's dry and warm. Tomorrow we'll figure something out. But right now you need to rest. I can't. Logan started, but Sienna interrupted, climbing up onto the couch beside him. You have to stay, she said seriously. You're still sad. Mommy says nobody should be alone when they're sad. Logan looked at this child, this beautiful little girl with bright eyes and a heart too big for her small body, and something inside him broke and mended at the same time. He nodded slowly, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. Have you ever lost everything in a single moment? Have you ever felt so alone that a stranger's kindness seemed impossible to believe? If this story touches your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means everything, and I'd love to hear about times when unexpected kindness changed your life. Rachel stood and pulled out clean towels from a closet that seemed to hold everything the small apartment couldn't fit elsewhere. The bathroom is down the hall. There's soap and shampoo. I think I might have some clothes that could fit you. They were my ex-husband's, but he won't be needing them. There was a story there, Logan realized. Pain behind those words. But Rachel didn't elaborate and he didn't ask. He accepted the towels and the offer of dry clothes with gratitude that felt foreign on his tongue. When had he last truly thanked someone? When had he last accepted help without calculating what he owed in return? The hot shower felt like a baptism, washing away the rain and the tears and some of the despair that had consumed him. Logan stood under the spray until the water ran cold, trying to process the impossible turn his life had taken. This morning he'd been fighting to save his company. Tonight he was showering in a stranger's apartment, preparing to sleep on a stranger's couch, dependent on the kindness of a woman and child who had every reason to turn him away. When he emerged, wearing clothes that were slightly too small but clean and dry, he found Rachel setting up the pull-out couch with sheets and a pillow. Sienna was in pajamas now, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. Mr. Logan? Sienna held out a small blanket, pink with white stars. This is my special blanket. Mommy says it helps when you're scared. You can borrow it tonight. Logan knelt down to Sienna's level, taking the blanket with careful hands. Thank you, Sienna. That's very kind of you. But won't you need it? I have Mr. Hops. She held up the rabbit. He keeps me safe. The blanket can keep you safe tonight. Logan felt tears threatening again and blinked them back. I'll take very good care of it. I promise. Rachel smiled, resting a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Come on, baby. Let's let Mr. Logan rest. Say good night. Good night, Mr. Logan. Tomorrow will be better. Mommy always says tomorrow brings new chances. Good night, Sienna. Thank you. For everything. After they disappeared into the single bedroom, Logan lay on the pull-out couch, Sienna's blanket spread across his chest. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of rain against the windows and the distant hum of traffic. He stared at the ceiling, processing the strangest day of his life. He'd lost everything. His company, his reputation, his freedom, his supposed friends. Vincent had made sure of that, stealing not just money but Logan's entire identity. The evidence was fabricated, but it was convincing. Even Logan's own lawyers seemed to doubt him. But in losing everything, he'd found something he'd forgotten existed. Genuine human kindness. Rachel and Sienna had nothing to gain from helping him. In fact, they had everything to lose. If anyone found out they were harboring the man accused of one of the biggest corporate frauds in the city's history, their lives could become complicated and difficult. Yet they'd helped anyway. Logan pulled Sienna's blanket closer, feeling the softness of it against his skin. A little girl's favorite blanket, offered to a grown man she'd never met because she saw he was hurting. When was the last time someone had shown him kindness with no strings attached? When was the last time he deserved it? The answer to both questions was, never. His entire adult life had been about transactions, about what he could get from people and what they could get from him. Networking events and power lunches and strategic partnerships. Everything had a price. Everyone wanted something. Except Rachel and Sienna. They just wanted to help. Logan closed his eyes, exhaustion finally overtaking him. His last thought before sleep claimed him was that maybe, just maybe, losing everything was the only way he could learn what actually mattered. And what mattered was currently sleeping in the next room. A woman with 2 jobs and a smile that held hope despite hardship, and a little girl who believed tomorrow would be better. He had no idea how he would repay their kindness. He had no idea how he would clear his name or rebuild his life. But for the first time since Vincent's betrayal came to light, Logan Mitchell felt something other than despair. He felt grateful. And that was a start. Logan woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Sienna's laughter. For a moment he forgot where he was, forgot what had happened. Then reality crashed back. The betrayal, the accusations, the media circus. He sat up on the pull-out couch, carefully folding Sienna's blanket. Morning light filtered through the apartment's small windows, revealing details he'd missed in last night's darkness. The furniture was old but well-maintained. The walls held framed photos. Sienna as a baby, Sienna's first day of school, Rachel and Sienna at what looked like a community festival. No photos of a father figure anywhere. Good morning. Rachel appeared from the kitchen, already dressed in scrubs. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she looked tired but determined. I made coffee. It's not fancy, just regular stuff. Regular sounds perfect, Logan said, standing and wincing at the stiffness in his back. The pull-out couch wasn't designed for someone his height, but he wasn't about to complain. In the kitchen area, Sienna sat at the small table eating cereal, swinging her legs. She brightened when she saw Logan. Good morning, Mr. Logan. Did my blanket help? It helped very much. Thank you for letting me borrow it. Rachel poured coffee into a chipped mug and handed it to Logan. Their fingers brushed briefly, and Logan noticed the calluses on her hands. These were hands that worked hard, that knew struggle intimately. I have to leave for my shift at the hospital in 20 minutes, Rachel said, checking the clock. I'm a nursing assistant. Then I have a few hours before my evening shift at the grocery store. Sienna goes to after-school care, but today's Saturday so she's home. She paused, seeming to gather courage. I know this is a lot to ask, but would you be okay staying here with her? Just until I get back around noon? Logan nearly dropped his coffee mug. You want me to watch your daughter? After everything you've seen on the news? Rachel met his eyes steadily. I'm a pretty good judge of character. I have to be, in my line of work. And last night, I watched you accept help from a 5-year-old child with more grace than most people show in a lifetime. I watched you fold her blanket this morning like it was made of glass. Bad people don't do those things. But what if you're wrong? What if? Are you going to hurt my daughter? Never. I would never. Then I'm not wrong. Rachel glanced at Sienna, who was watching the exchange with interest. Besides, Sienna is an excellent judge of character too. She's never steered me wrong. Logan felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Trust. This woman was trusting him, truly trusting him, with her most precious thing. Not because of his credentials or his resume or what he could offer her, but because she looked at him and saw someone worthy of that trust. I'll take care of her, Logan said softly. I promise. I know you will. Rachel squeezed his shoulder briefly before grabbing her bag. She kissed Sienna's forehead. Be good for Mr. Logan, baby. Show him where everything is okay? Okay, Mommy. After Rachel left, Logan stood in the quiet apartment with Sienna, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. He hadn't been alone with a child in years. Maybe ever. His life had been boardrooms and conference calls, not coloring books and cereal. "Do you want to see my room?" Sienna asked, sliding off her chair. "I'd love to." Sienna's room was tiny, barely big enough for her small bed, a dresser and a toy box. But it was clearly her kingdom. The walls were covered in drawings and a mobile of paper stars hung from the ceiling. Books were stacked everywhere, some clearly read so many times the covers were falling off. "Mommy reads to me every night," Sienna explained, picking up a book about a bear family. "She does different voices for all the characters. She's really good at it." "What's your favorite story?" Sienna considered this seriously. "The one about the caterpillar who becomes a butterfly. Mommy says everybody can change into something beautiful if they're patient and work hard." Logan felt his throat tighten. "Your mom sounds very smart." "She is. She's the smartest person in the whole world." Sienna plopped down on her bed, gesturing for Logan to sit beside her. "Can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "Sometimes Mommy cries at night. She thinks I'm sleeping but I hear her. She cries because we don't have a lot of money and she works really hard and sometimes she's really tired." Sienna's young face was troubled. "I try to be extra good so she doesn't have to worry about me too." Logan felt his heart break a little. This child, this sweet little girl, was trying to be perfect to ease her mother's burden. He knew that feeling, had carried it himself as a kid when his own parents struggled. "You know what?" Logan said gently. "I bet your mom doesn't want you to worry about being extra good. I bet she just wants you to be yourself because yourself is pretty wonderful." Sienna smiled, but it was a grown-up smile, tinged with worry too deep for her years. "Do you have kids, Mr. Logan?" "No. I don't." "Do you have a family?" Logan thought about the question. His parents were gone. He had no siblings. The people he'd called friends had vanished the moment trouble appeared. "Not really. Not anymore." "That's sad." Sienna reached out and patted his hand, a gesture so tender it nearly undid him. "But now you have us. Mommy says family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them." For the second time in 12 hours, Logan found himself crying. But these tears were different. They weren't tears of despair or defeat. They were tears of gratitude, of wonder at the simple wisdom of a 5-year-old child who had just claimed him as family. "Thank you, Sienna," he managed. "That means more than you know." They spent the morning reading books, with Logan doing his best to create different voices for characters. Sienna giggled at his attempts, offering helpful suggestions like, "The bear should sound more grumbly," and "The rabbit needs to be higher." Logan found himself relaxing, laughing, forgetting for brief moments the disaster his life had become. Around 11, Sienna asked if they could make lunch for when her mom got home. Logan hesitated, realizing he had no idea what was available or what Rachel would be comfortable with him using. But Sienna assured him it was okay, that her mom always said they should share what they had. The refrigerator held basics: eggs, cheese, some vegetables, bread. The pantry wasn't much fuller. Logan's practiced eye calculated that Rachel was making every dollar stretch as far as it would go. She was probably skipping meals to make sure Sienna ate enough. "Can you make grilled cheese?" Sienna asked hopefully. "I can try." Logan hadn't cooked in years. His penthouse had a state-of-the-art kitchen he'd barely used, usually opting for takeout or restaurant meals. But he found the simple act of buttering bread and heating a pan to be oddly soothing. Sienna pulled a chair up to the counter to watch, offering a running commentary on proper grilled cheese technique. "Not too much butter or it gets soggy. But not too little or it doesn't get crispy. And you have to flip it at just the right time. Mommy's really good at knowing when to flip." Logan flipped too early on the first sandwich, then too late on the second. The third one came out perfect, golden and crispy. Sienna clapped her hands. "You did it. See. You just needed practice." They made 6 sandwiches total, and Logan was arranging them on plates when he heard keys in the door. Rachel walked in looking exhausted. Her scrubs had various stains, and there were dark circles under her eyes. But when she saw the table set with lunch, with Sienna beaming and Logan standing awkwardly by the stove, her face transformed with a smile that made her beautiful. "You made lunch?" "Mr. Logan made grilled cheese," Sienna announced proudly. "He's not as good as you yet, but he's learning. They smell wonderful." Rachel dropped her bag and sank into a chair. "I wasn't expecting this." "It's the least I could do," Logan said, joining them at the table. "After everything you've done for me." They ate together and Logan watched the dynamic between mother and daughter. Rachel asked about Sienna's morning, really listening to the answer. Sienna told elaborate stories about the books they'd read, making Logan far more heroic in his voice acting than he'd actually been. Rachel laughed, and the sound was like music in the small apartment. "Thank you," Rachel said to Logan after Sienna went to her room for quiet time. "For watching her. For making lunch. For—" She trailed off, looking down at her hands. "I know people see us, see this apartment, see how little we have, and they feel sorry for us. But we're happy. Sienna and me, we're a team. We're doing okay." "I don't feel sorry for you," Logan said honestly. "I'm amazed by you. You're raising an incredible daughter while working 2 jobs. You took in a stranger who could have been dangerous. You share what little you have without hesitation. That's not pitiable. That's heroic." Rachel blinked rapidly, and Logan realized she was fighting tears. "I'm not a hero. I'm just trying to survive." "No," Logan said firmly. "You're not just surviving. You're thriving. Sienna is happy, loved, and kind. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of you." Rachel wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "My ex-husband, he left when Sienna was 2. Said he didn't sign up for the responsibility, that he was too young to be tied down. He cleaned out our joint account and disappeared. I had nothing. I was living in a women's shelter with a toddler, working minimum wage, trying to finish my nursing degree 1 class at a time. How did I get here?" Rachel gestured around the small apartment. "Government assistance for a while. Student loans I'm still paying off. Help from strangers who saw a woman with a baby and decided to be kind. And luck. So much luck. A landlord who gave me a chance despite my credit. A boss who let me bring Sienna to work when I couldn't afford childcare. People who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Logan listened, understanding dawning. This was why Rachel had helped him. Because she knew what it was like to be helpless, to need mercy, to depend on the kindness of strangers. She was paying forward what had been given to her. "That's why you took me in," he said softly. "Partly." Rachel met his eyes. "But also because I meant what I said. I'm a good judge of character. And you're a good man who's had bad things happen to him. I know the difference." "How can you be so sure?" "Because bad men don't cry over a child's blanket. Bad men don't make grilled cheese with patience when they've lost everything. Bad men don't ask permission to exist in a space that's been offered to them." Rachel reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. "I don't know what happened with your company. I don't know if you'll clear your name. But I know you're not what they say you are." Logan turned his hand over, grasping hers like a lifeline. "I didn't steal that money. My partner, Vincent, he set me up. He's been siphoning funds for years and covering his tracks by blaming me. He fabricated documents, created fake transactions in my name. By the time I figured out what was happening, it was too late. He'd already gone to the authorities with his version of events." "Can you prove it?" "I don't know. My lawyers say it's complicated. The evidence against me is thorough. Vincent spent years building his false narrative. And I played right into it by trusting him, by not watching closely enough. I was too focused on growing the company to see what was happening under my nose." Rachel squeezed his hand. "Then we prove it. We figure it out. You think I'm going to let you face this alone? After you watched my daughter and made her lunch?" Rachel's smile was gentle but determined. "Besides, Sienna already declared you family. And family helps each other." Logan felt overwhelmed by the simple generosity of this woman. She had every reason to protect herself and her daughter, to keep him at arm's length. Instead, she was offering partnership, support, belief. "I don't have anything," Logan said, his voice rough with emotion. "I can't pay you back. I can't help with rent or bills. I'm literally living on your charity. So you'll help in other ways. You can watch Sienna when I'm working, which saves me childcare costs. You can cook, clean, fix things around the apartment. You're not useless just because you don't have money, Logan. You have skills, intelligence, time. Those things have value too." Logan realized she was right. He'd been so focused on what he'd lost that he hadn't considered what he still possessed. His mind was sharp. His work ethic was strong. His ability to problem solve hadn't disappeared with his bank account. "Okay," he said finally. "But I want to contribute. Really contribute. Not just exist here taking up space. Deal?" Rachel stood, gathering the plates. "Now, I have about an hour before my next shift. Want to help me figure out what's wrong with the bathroom sink? It's been dripping for weeks and I can't afford a plumber." Logan followed her to the tiny bathroom, where indeed the sink was dripping steadily. He knelt down, examining the pipes underneath while Rachel handed him tools from a small toolbox. Where did you learn about plumbing? She asked. My dad. He was a contractor. I grew up on construction sites, learning to fix anything that broke. Somewhere along the way I forgot all that. Got too important to get my hands dirty. Logan tightened a loose connection and the dripping slowed. Funny how life reminds you where you came from. It's a good reminder, Rachel said softly. They worked in comfortable silence, and Logan found satisfaction in the simple act of fixing something. When the dripping finally stopped completely, he felt a small sense of accomplishment that rivaled any business deal he'd closed. Thank you, Rachel said, testing the faucet. You just saved me about $200 I don't have. Thank you for letting me help. Rachel checked her watch and sighed. I need to get ready for my evening shift. Sienna will want dinner around 6. There's pasta and sauce in the pantry if you're comfortable making that. I can manage pasta. And Logan? Rachel paused at the bathroom door. This arrangement you staying here, it's not charity. It's mutual support. You're helping me as much as I'm helping you. Please don't forget that. After Rachel left for her grocery store shift, Logan sat with Sienna while she drew pictures. She was making a drawing of the three of them, Rachel, Logan, and herself, all holding hands with the sunshine overhead. This is us, she said, coloring Logan's suit jacket bright blue. We're a family now. Logan watched her work, this small person with such a big heart, and made a silent promise. He would clear his name. He would find a way to repay Rachel's kindness. He would prove that her trust in him wasn't misplaced. But more than that, he would make sure Sienna never had to worry about being extra good to ease her mother's burden. He would make sure Rachel could stop working 2 jobs, could finish her nursing degree, could have the life she deserved. He didn't know how yet, but he would find a way. Because Sienna was right. They were family now. And family shows up for each other. Logan woke on Monday morning to the sound of Rachel's alarm at 5 in the morning. He heard her moving quietly, trying not to wake anyone, and he got up to join her in the kitchen. You don't have to be up, Rachel whispered, pouring coffee in the dim light. I know. But I want to help. Logan gestured to the lunch containers on the counter. Are you making lunch for work? Yeah, I usually prep it the night before, but last night got away from me. Let me do it. You sit and drink your coffee. Rachel looked like she might protest, but exhaustion won out. She sank into a chair while Logan assembled sandwiches and packed fruit into containers. It was a small thing, but he saw her shoulders relax slightly. You don't have to take care of me, Rachel said quietly. I know. But I want to. You've been taking care of everyone else. Someone should take care of you. Rachel's eyes welled up and she quickly wiped them. Sorry? I'm just tired. And not used to someone helping without expecting something in return. Logan handed her the packed lunch and squeezed her shoulder gently. Get used to it. I'm not going anywhere. After Rachel left, Logan stayed awake, planning his day. He needed to find a job, any job. His legal troubles meant most professional positions were out of reach, but there had to be something. He also needed to start investigating Vincent's betrayal systematically, documenting everything he could remember. At 7, Sienna woke up, padding into the living room in her pajamas. Logan had the pull-out couch already converted back to a sofa, his few belongings tucked neatly away. Good morning, Mr. Logan. Is Mommy gone? She left for work. But she said to give you extra hugs from her. Logan opened his arms and Sienna climbed into his lap, still sleepy and warm. They established a morning routine. Breakfast, getting Sienna dressed, walking her to the bus stop for her summer day camp program. Logan watched the bus pull away, Sienna waving enthusiastically from the window, and felt the weight of responsibility. This child trusted him. Rachel trusted him. He couldn't let them down. Back at the apartment, Logan began his job search in earnest. He couldn't use his real name or history, not with the fraud accusations plastered across every news site. So he applied for positions that didn't require background checks. Dishwashing, janitorial work, warehouse positions. The rejections came fast. Some employers recognized him from the news. Others saw his expensive clothes and assumed he was slumming it, that he wouldn't stick around. By noon, Logan had applied to 37 jobs and received 0 positive responses. He was composing yet another application when his phone rang. A known number. His lawyer. Logan, I need you to come to the office. We have developments. What kind of developments? The kind we need to discuss in person. Can you be here in an hour? Logan looked around the small apartment, thought about his empty wallet and frozen accounts. I don't have money for subway fare. There was a pause. His lawyer, Martin Chen, sighed. I'll send a car. Be ready in 20 minutes. The black sedan that arrived felt like a ghost from Logan's previous life. The driver didn't speak, didn't acknowledge him beyond a nod. At the law office, Logan was ushered through back corridors to avoid the press that still camped out front. Martin's office was exactly as Logan remembered. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, walls covered in degrees and awards. Martin himself looked tired, his usually immaculate suit slightly rumpled. "Sit," Martin said, gesturing to a chair. "We have problems." "More problems?" "Vincent's lawyers have filed additional charges. They're claiming you were running the fraud for 5 years, not 2. They have documents showing you approved false invoices, authorized questionable transfers, even set up offshore accounts in your name." Logan's stomach dropped. "That's impossible. I know. But the documents are convincing. Too convincing." Martin pulled out a thick file. "Which got me thinking. I had our forensics team analyze everything. These documents, they're too perfect. No one's records are this clean. It's like someone went back and created a complete paper trail." "Vincent?" "Almost certainly. But proving it is another matter. He's covered his tracks well. Every document has your digital signature, your authorization codes. On paper, you're guilty of everything they're claiming." Logan dropped his head into his hands. "So what do? We fight. But Logan, I need to be honest with you. This is going to be a long, expensive battle. Your assets are frozen, but legal fees keep accumulating. At some point, we'll need to discuss payment arrangements." "I don't have any money. I'm living on a stranger's couch, Martin. I have nothing." Martin was quiet for a moment. "There might be another option. Plea deal. Vincent's team has indicated they'd be willing to recommend reduced charges if you cooperate, admit to some culpability." "You mean admit to crimes I didn't commit?" "It could mean a shorter sentence, less media attention. You could rebuild eventually." Logan stood, anger burning through his despair. "No, absolutely not. I didn't do this, Martin. I won't say I did just to make it easier for everyone. Vincent destroyed my life. I won't help him finish the job. Then we prepare for trial. But I'm telling you now, it's going to be brutal. They have evidence, witnesses, documents. We have your word against a mountain of proof. Then we find our own proof. There has to be something, some mistake Vincent made. We're looking. But so far, nothing." Logan left the law office feeling worse than when he'd arrived. The black sedan dropped him several blocks from Rachel's apartment, probably to avoid drawing attention. He walked slowly, processing Martin's words. 5 years of fabricated evidence. Offshore accounts in his name. Witnesses ready to testify against him. Vincent had been planning this for years, carefully building a case that seemed unshakable. At the apartment building, Logan stopped. He couldn't go back up there, couldn't face Rachel and Sienna with this defeat weighing on him. Instead, he walked, letting his feet carry him through neighborhoods he'd never really noticed before despite living in this city his entire adult life. He ended up in a small park where children played on worn equipment. An older man sat on a bench feeding pigeons, and Logan joined him, needing to be near someone, anyone, even if they didn't speak. "Rough day?" the man asked after a few minutes. "You could say that." "What happened?" Logan almost said nothing. But something about the man's kind face, the non-judgmental way he asked, made the words spill out. Not everything, not the details, but the core of it. Betrayal, false accusations, a system that seemed determined to destroy him. The man listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. When Logan finished, the man scattered the last of his birdseed and turned to face him fully. "I went to prison once," he said. 20 years ago. My business partner stole from the company, made it look like I was the one doing the stealing. I lost everything. My business, my house, my wife left with the kids. I served 3 years before new evidence cleared me." Logan stared at him. "What did you do? After you got out?" "Started over. Got a job washing dishes, saved every penny. Eventually opened a small restaurant. Nothing fancy, but it's mine and it's honest." The man smiled. "Best thing that ever happened to me, losing everything." "How can you say that?" "Because I learned who I really was. Not who I thought I was, who my job title said I was. But who I actually was, stripped of everything. And I learned who really mattered. The people who stuck around, who believed me, who helped me rebuild. Those were my real friends. Everyone else was just networking." Logan thought about Rachel and Sienna, about their simple kindness with no agenda. "I've met people like that. A woman and her daughter. They took me in when I had nowhere to go. Then you're richer than you know. Hold on to them. And don't give up. Truth has a way of surfacing eventually." They sat in silence for a while longer before Logan thanked him and headed back to the apartment. It was late afternoon, and he needed to pick up Sienna from her bus stop. Sienna bounded off the bus full of stories about her day. They walked hand in hand back to the apartment, and Logan felt some of his darkness lift. This child didn't care about his bank account or his legal troubles. She cared that he was there, that he listened to her stories, that he made her feel important. "Mr. Logan, can we bake cookies for Mommy?" Sienna asked as they climbed the stairs. "She loves cookies, but we don't usually have money for extra stuff." Logan checked the pantry. There was flour, sugar, butter, eggs. Basic ingredients for basic cookies. "Let's see what we can do." They spent the next hour making simple sugar cookies. Sienna helped measure and stir, her tongue sticking out in concentration. The apartment filled with the smell of vanilla and warmth. Logan found himself smiling, really smiling for the first time since his world fell apart. When Rachel came home from her first shift, exhausted and smelling faintly of antiseptic, she stopped in the doorway at the sight of cookies cooling on the counter. "You made cookies?" "Sienna's idea. She wanted to do something nice for you." Rachel picked up her daughter, holding her close. "Thank you, baby. They look beautiful." Over Sienna's head, her eyes met Logan's, full of gratitude and something else. Connection, maybe. While Rachel changed out of her scrubs, Logan prepared the simple dinner he'd planned. Pasta with vegetables and the last of some chicken he'd found in the freezer. Nothing fancy but filling and warm. "You don't have to do all this," Rachel said when she emerged, watching him set the table. "I want to." "You work all day taking care of other people. Someone should take care of you when you get home." They ate together, Sienna chattering about her day at camp, Rachel asking questions and laughing at the stories. Logan mostly listened, content to observe this family dynamic he was being allowed to be part of. After dinner, after Sienna was in bed, Rachel and Logan sat together on the couch, each with a cookie and tea. "I had a meeting with my lawyer today," Logan said quietly. "It's not looking good. Vincent has built a case that seems impossible to beat. Documents, witnesses, evidence going back years. But you didn't do it." "No. But proving that is another matter." Rachel was quiet for a moment, dunking her cookie in her tea. "When I was trying to leave my ex-husband, everyone said I couldn't do it. I had no money, no degree, a baby. They said I should stay, that at least I had a roof over my head. That things could be worse. Why didn't you listen? Because staying meant teaching Sienna that it's okay to be treated badly. That survival is more important than dignity. I couldn't do that to her." Rachel looked at Logan. "So I left with nothing. And people helped me little by little. A caseworker who found me a spot in a shelter. A church that gave me clothes for job interviews. A professor who let me bring Sienna to evening classes. None of them thought I could do it. But they helped anyway. And you made it." "I made it. Not because I was strong or smart or lucky. But because I refused to give up, and because people showed me kindness when I needed it most." She put her hand on his arm. "You're going to make it too, Logan? I know you are." Logan wanted to believe her. But the weight of Vincent's betrayal, the mountain of false evidence, the system arrayed against him felt crushing. "What if I don't?" he asked quietly. "What if I go to prison for crimes I didn't commit? What happens then?" "Then you survive prison and you come out and you rebuild. Again. Because that's what people do. We survive. We adapt. We keep going." Rachel squeezed his arm. "But I don't think it's going to come to that. I think the truth will come out. It usually does. You have a lot of faith in justice." "No. I have faith in you. There's a difference." Logan felt tears threatening again. This woman, who barely knew him, who had every reason to be cynical and jaded, had faith in him. It was humbling and empowering at the same time. "Thank you," he whispered. "For everything. For believing in me. For letting me be here. For being human?" Rachel smiled gently. "That's not something you need to thank someone for. It's just what we should do for each other." They sat in comfortable silence, eating cookies and drinking tea, and Logan realized that despite everything he'd lost, despite the uncertain future, he had something he'd never had before. A real home. Not a penthouse with a view. Not a status symbol or an investment property. A real home with people who cared about him, who wanted him there, who made him feel like he mattered. And that was worth more than any fortune. 2 weeks passed in a pattern of small routines and small victories. Logan woke early with Rachel, making her lunch and coffee, seeing her off to her hospital shift. He got Sienna ready for day camp, walked her to the bus stop, then spent his days applying for jobs and investigating his case. The job rejections continued. 40 applications. 60. 80. Logan kept a spreadsheet tracking where he applied, when, and what the response was. Most companies never responded at all. Others recognized his name and shut doors immediately. But on a humid Thursday morning his phone rang. A known number. Is this Logan Mitchell? Yes. This is Frank Rodriguez, manager at the corner diner on Maple Street. I see you applied for our dishwashing position. Can you start Monday? Logan's heart leaped. Yes, absolutely. What time? 5 to 1, 6 days a week. Pay is minimum wage, tips are pooled among staff. You'll work under Jerome in the kitchen. He's tough but fair. I'll be there. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you so much. After hanging up, Logan sat in stunned silence. A dishwashing job. Minimum wage. 6 days a week in a hot kitchen. It was the kind of job he would have looked down on 3 weeks ago, would have considered beneath him. Now it felt like winning the lottery. He couldn't wait to tell Rachel and Sienna. He spent the afternoon cleaning the apartment thoroughly, fixing a loose cabinet door, preparing a special dinner with the limited ingredients available. When Sienna got home he picked her up and spun her around. Guess what? What happened? I got a job. A real job. Sienna squealed with delight. That's so good, Mr. Logan. We should celebrate. Can we make a cake? They didn't have cake ingredients, but they made cinnamon toast and called it celebration bread. When Rachel came home, they had a little party in the small kitchen, dancing to music playing from Rachel's phone. I'm so proud of you, Rachel said, and Logan felt warmth spread through his chest. When was the last time someone said they were proud of him? When was the last time he'd earned that pride through honest effort rather than corporate maneuvering? It's just washing dishes, he said, embarrassed by how much her words affected him. It's not just anything. It's a start. It's you moving forward. Rachel hugged him, and Logan allowed himself to lean into the embrace, to accept the comfort and support she offered. Monday morning came too early. Logan dressed in the simple clothes Rachel had found at a thrift store, a plain blue t-shirt and work pants. No designer labels. No expensive watches. Just a man ready to work. The corner diner was exactly what its name suggested. A small establishment on a corner with worn booths and a counter where regulars sat for coffee and eggs. Logan reported to the kitchen, where Jerome, a man in his 60s with arms like tree trunks, looked him over with skepticism. You're the new guy? The one from the news? Yes, sir. Can you work hard? Yes, sir. Good. Because I don't care about your past. I care about whether these dishes get clean and whether you show up on time. That's it. Understand? Understood. Jerome showed him the system. Scrape, spray, load, unload, repeat. The dishwasher was industrial and loud. The kitchen was hot, especially near the grill. The work was monotonous and physically demanding. Logan loved it. There was something honest about washing dishes. The work was straightforward. Dirty dishes went in, clean dishes came out. No office politics. No backstabbing. No one questioning his motives or his integrity. His hands got wrinkled from the water. His back ached from standing. By the time his shift ended at 1 in the afternoon, he was exhausted in a way he'd never experienced in a corporate office. But it was a good exhaustion. An honest exhaustion. Frank, the manager, stopped him on his way out. Jerome says you did good work today. Keep it up. Thank you, sir. I will. Logan walked home, stopping at a convenience store to buy a small bouquet of flowers with some of his first day's tips. They weren't fancy, but Rachel's face lit up when he presented them that evening. Logan, you didn't have to. I wanted to. You've given me so much. Let me give you something back. The flowers went into a plastic cup on the small dining table, and Sienna declared them the most beautiful flowers in the whole world. The routine continued. Wake early, help Rachel, get Sienna to camp, work at the diner, come home and help with the apartment and dinner. In the evenings, after Sienna was in bed, Logan worked on his case. He'd managed to access some old files from his phone, documents he'd saved in the cloud before his accounts were frozen. Slowly, methodically, he began building a timeline of Vincent's behavior. Small inconsistencies in reports. Meetings Vincent had claimed Logan attended that Logan had no memory of. Transactions flagged as approved by Logan that occurred when Logan was verifiably somewhere else. It wasn't much. Not yet. But it was something. Rachel would sit with him during these sessions, bringing him tea, asking questions that helped him think through problems. She had a sharp mind, Logan realized. If circumstances had been different, if she'd had the opportunities he'd taken for granted, she could have been anything. What made you want to go into nursing? He asked one night. When I was in the shelter with Sienna, one of the nurses at the free clinic was so kind to us. She treated Sienna when she had an ear infection, But more than that, she treated us like people. Like we mattered. Rachel smiled at the memory. I thought that's what I want to do. I want to make people feel like they matter, especially when they're at their lowest. You already do that. Maybe. But I want to do it professionally. I want the degree, the title, the ability to really help people medically. I'm so close. Just 8 more classes. But between work in Siena and... She trailed off. And me? I'm taking up space and resources you don't have. That's not what I meant. I know. But it's true. Logan closed his laptop. Rachel, I'm getting paid now. Not much, but something. Let me contribute to rent and food. Please. I need to feel like I'm not just a burden. Rachel looked like she might argue, but then nodded slowly. Okay. But only what you can afford. I don't want you struggling. They worked out an arrangement. Logan would contribute to groceries and utilities. It wasn't much, a fraction of what Rachel paid for rent, but it made him feel human again. Like a participant in his own life rather than a victim of circumstances. At the diner, Logan began to find a rhythm. Jerome warmed up to him, even teaching him some cooking basics when the kitchen was slow. The waitresses learned his name, saving him the best tips. Frank started asking his opinion on kitchen efficiency, implementing some of Logan's suggestions about workflow. You got a head for business, Frank observed one afternoon. Ever think about management? Logan almost laughed. If only Frank knew his previous life involved managing hundreds of employees and million-dollar budgets. But he just smiled and said, maybe someday. One Saturday, 3 weeks into the job, a well-dressed couple came into the diner. Logan was in the back but heard the commotion, the whispered excitement among the staff. That's Robert Sterling, one of the waitresses hissed. The tech billionaire. He never comes to places like this. Logan froze. Robert Sterling. They'd met at charity events, had drinks at the same club. If Robert came back to the kitchen for any reason, if he recognized Logan, it could mean the end of this small piece Logan had found. He kept his head down, focusing on the dishes. The order came through, went out, and eventually the couple left. Logan released a breath he hadn't known he was holding. But the encounter reminded him that his two worlds could collide at any moment. The careful anonymity he'd built could shatter. And what then? That night, he lay awake on the pull-out couch, listening to the sounds of the apartment. Rachel breathing quietly in her room. The hum of the refrigerator. Traffic outside the windows. This was his life now. Not fancy penthouses or executive meetings. But a pull-out couch in a small apartment, a dishwashing job, and 2 people who cared about him not for what he could do for them but for who he was. And despite everything he'd lost, despite the uncertain future, Logan realized he wouldn't trade it. Not for anything. Because for the first time in his adult life he was living honestly. Working honestly. Caring honestly. And that honesty, that simple authenticity, was more valuable than any fortune he'd accumulated. The next morning Logan was walking Sienna to her bus stop when she asked, Mr. Logan, are you happy here? With me and Mommy? He knelt down to her level, looking into her serious young face. I'm happier here than I've been in a very long time, Sienna. Why do you ask? Because sometimes you look sad. And I want you to be happy. You make Mommy smile, and she doesn't smile as much when you're not around. Logan felt his chest tighten with emotion. Your mom makes me smile too. Both of you do. And yes, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy. Sienna hugged him tight. Good. Because we love you, Mr. Logan. Mommy says we're not supposed to say it because maybe you'll feel weird, but I think you should know. Well, this child loved him. Rachel loved him. People who had known him only a few weeks, who had seen him at his absolute lowest, who had every reason to keep him at a distance, loved him. Logan hugged Sienna back, blinking away tears. I love you both too. So much. And in that moment, standing at a bus stop in clothes from a thrift store, with empty pockets and an uncertain future, Logan Mitchell felt like the richest man in the world. Because he had something money could never buy, a family who loved him for exactly who he was. The August heat settled over the city like a heavy blanket. The diner's kitchen became almost unbearable during lunch rush, but Logan never complained. He showed up every morning at 5, worked until 1, and came home to help with whatever Rachel and Sienna needed. His paycheck, though modest, felt like a fortune. He'd gone from millions in frozen accounts to a few $100s a week, and somehow the latter felt more real, more earned. Every dollar represented hours of honest work, of sweat and effort. Rachel continued her double shifts, but Logan noticed small changes. She smiled more easily. The tension in her shoulders had eased slightly. She'd even managed to register for one class in the fall, a step toward finishing her nursing degree. I couldn't have done this without you, she told Logan one evening after Sienna was asleep. They sat together on the couch, the window open to catch any breeze. The childcare savings alone have made such a difference. You could have done it. You've been managing this whole time. Managing isn't the same as thriving. Rachel turned to face him, and in the dim light from the street, her face was beautiful. Before you came, I was just surviving day to day. Now I can actually think about the future. That's because of you. Logan wanted to close the distance between them, to kiss her, to tell her that she'd saved him far more than he'd saved her. But he held back. She'd given him so much already: shelter, faith, family. He wouldn't risk that by pushing for more if she didn't want it. Instead, he took her hand gently. We're helping each other. That's what family does. Rachel's fingers intertwined with his. Is that what we are? Family? I hope so. If that's okay with you. It's more than okay. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat like that for a long time, not needing words. The next day, Logan's phone rang during his shift. Martin, his lawyer. We need to talk. Soon. What happened? Not over the phone. Can you come to the office tomorrow? Morning before your shift. Logan arranged to meet at 7 in the morning, getting up even earlier than usual to make the trip. Martin's office felt foreign now, a reminder of a life that seemed increasingly distant. Vincent made a mistake, Martin said without preamble. Small but potentially significant. One of the offshore accounts supposedly set up by you? It was accessed from an IP address in the Bahamas at the same time you were provably in New York at a hospital benefit. Security footage, hundreds of witnesses, credit card receipts. You couldn't have been in two places at once. Hope flickered in Logan's chest. Can we use that? It's a start. It proves at least one of the transactions wasn't you. If we can find more inconsistencies, we might be able to create reasonable doubt. But Logan, we need resources. We need forensic accountants, computer experts, private investigators. All of that costs money we don't have. What about the settlement when this is over? Can't we work on contingency? Maybe. But most experts want money up front. Martin leaned back in his chair. There is another option. The firm could take this pro bono, make it a showcase case. Corporate fraud, wrongful accusation, the little guy against the system. It's good publicity. What's the catch? You need to be the face of it. Interviews, press conferences, being public about your situation. Right now you're hiding, working under the radar. This would put you back in the spotlight. Logan thought about the diner, about Jerome and Frank and the quiet anonymity of washing dishes. He thought about Rachel and Sienna, about the peaceful life they'd built together. Can I think about it? Of course. But don't take too long. Vincent's team is pushing for a trial date. We need to be ready. Logan walked to the diner, arriving early. He sat at the counter, and Jerome brought him coffee without being asked. Rough morning? The older man asked. Something like that. Can I ask you something? Shoot. If you could clear your name, prove you didn't do what you were accused of, but it meant giving up the piece you'd found, would you do it? Jerome was quiet for a moment, wiping down the counter. When I got out of prison, everybody knew my face. Couldn't go anywhere without judgment. So I changed my name, moved across the country, started over. He poured himself coffee and joined Logan. For years I told myself I was at peace. But truth is I was just hiding. And hiding gets exhausting after a while. So you think I should fight? I think you should do what feels right. But running, hiding, pretending to be someone you're not? That's not peace. That's just a different kind of prison. Logan worked his shift thinking about Jerome's words. That evening he told Rachel everything. The discovery, the opportunity, the choice he faced. What do you want to do? Rachel asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to fight, to clear my name completely. But another part of me is terrified of losing this. He gestured around the small apartment. Losing you and Sienna. If I go public, the media will dig into everything. They'll find out I'm staying here. They'll make assumptions, probably ugly ones. I don't want to drag you into that. Rachel took his hands in hers. Logan, look at me. I've survived an abusive marriage, homelessness, years of struggling alone. I'm not fragile. I'm not going to break because of some media attention. But Sienna? Sienna knows you're a good man. That won't change no matter what anyone says. Rachel squeezed his hands. But here's what I think. You can't build a real future on hiding. Yes, you're safe here. Yes, we're happy. But there's always going to be that shadow, that fear of being discovered. Is that the life you want? Is that the example you want to show Sienna? Logan realized she was right. He'd been thinking about this small piece as an ending, but it was supposed to be a beginning. A place to heal and gather strength before facing the battle ahead. "I'm scared," he admitted quietly. "I know. But you're also brave. You've proven that every single day since you got here. Taking this job, helping with Sienna, contributing to a household when you had nothing. That's bravery. Fighting to clear your name is just one more brave thing." That night, Logan called Martin and agreed to move forward. The firm would take his case pro bono in exchange for the publicity value. They'd hold a press conference at the end of the week, laying out the new evidence in Logan's story. "This is going to get intense," Martin warned. "Are you ready?" "No. But I'm doing it anyway." The days leading up to the press conference were surreal. Logan continued working at the diner, but Martin's team was preparing, strategizing, coaching him on what to say and how to say it. Rachel helped him practice his statement, asking hard questions so he'd be ready. "Why should people believe you now when the evidence seems so convincing?" she asked, playing the role of skeptical reporter. "Because I'm not asking them to take my word for it. I'm asking them to look at the facts, the timeline, the inconsistencies. Truth stands up to scrutiny. Lies eventually fall apart." Sienna didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew it was important. She made Logan a drawing of a superhero with a cape, telling him it was for courage. "Superheroes get scared too," she explained seriously. "But they do the right thing anyway. That's what makes them super." Logan hung the drawing in his locker at the diner, a reminder of what mattered. The night before the press conference, Logan couldn't sleep. He lay on the pull-out couch, staring at the ceiling, running through everything that could go wrong. What if the press didn't believe him? What if the new evidence wasn't enough? What if he'd just made everything worse? Around 2 in the morning, Rachel emerged from her room in pajamas. "Can't sleep? Did I wake you?" "No. I couldn't sleep either." She sat on the edge of the couch. Nervous? Terrified? Rachel lay down beside him, her head on his shoulder. It felt natural, right, like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. "Tell me about your life before," she said softly. "The good parts. What did you love about your work?" Logan thought back. Building things. Not just buildings or businesses, but systems. Taking an idea and turning it into reality. Seeing something I created help people, provide jobs, make a difference. That's still who you are. This situation, Vincent's betrayal, none of that changes your core abilities. You're still a builder. You're just building different things now. Like what? Like a family. Like trust. Like a future. Rachel lifted her head to look at him. "Those are harder to build than any company, but they matter more." Logan cupped her face gently, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she closed the distance between them, kissing him softly. It wasn't passionate or desperate. It was tender, sweet, full of promise. When they pulled apart, Rachel was smiling. "I've wanted to do that for a while," she admitted. "Me too. But I didn't want to presume. Logan, you've been living in my home, taking care of my daughter, showing up every single day. You're not presuming anything. You're already here." They stayed like that for hours, talking quietly about hopes and fears and possibilities. When dawn began to lighten the sky, Rachel kissed him once more before returning to her room. Logan got up, showered, dressed in one of the suits Martin had brought him. It felt strange, like wearing someone else's clothes. But when he looked in the mirror, he saw both versions of himself. The man he'd been and the man he was becoming. At the press conference, cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions. Logan stood at a podium flanked by Martin and other lawyers, looking out at the crowd. Somewhere in the back, he knew Rachel and Sienna were watching on a laptop. "My name is Logan Mitchell," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. 3 months ago, my business partner betrayed me, stole from our company, and framed me for his crimes. Today, I'm here to share new evidence that proves my innocence and to ask for what I should have had from the beginning, a fair investigation." He laid out the facts methodically. The IP address inconsistency. The timeline problems. The too perfect documentation. He didn't plead or beg. He simply presented the truth and let it speak for itself. The questions came fast and harsh. "Why should we believe you?" "Because the evidence supports it. Look at the facts, not the narrative someone else created." "Where have you been living?" "With friends who believed in me when no one else did." "Do you expect to get your company back?" "I expect justice. Whatever form that takes." After 30 minutes, Martin ended the conference. The legal team ushered Logan out through a back entrance, but he caught glimpses of headlines already forming on reporters' laptops. "Disgraced CEO fights back. New evidence in Mitchell case. From penthouse to poverty. A story of betrayal." Back at the apartment, Rachel and Sienna were waiting. Sienna hugged him immediately. "You were so brave, Mr. Logan. Just like a superhero." Logan picked her up, holding her close. "I had good teachers." That night, the three of them watched the news coverage together. Some reporters were skeptical, others intrigued. But the important thing was that people were talking, questioning, looking at the evidence rather than just accepting Vincent's version. "What happens now?" Sienna asked. "Now we wait," Logan said. "We keep living, keep working, keep being a family. And we trust that the truth will come out." Rachel took his hand, squeezing it tight. "Whatever happens, we're with you. All the way." Logan looked at them, these two people who had saved him in ways they'd never fully understand, and felt grateful for every twist of fate that had brought him to their door. Because yes, he'd lost everything. But in losing everything, he'd found what actually mattered. And no one could take that away. The press conference changed everything and nothing. Logan still woke at 5, still made Rachel coffee, still worked his dishwashing shift. But now people recognized him on the street. Some were supportive, others hostile. The diner saw an increase in customers, people curious to see the fallen CEO washing dishes. Frank pulled Logan aside one morning. "Media attention is good for business, but I need to know, is this going to be a problem? Are we going to have reporters camping outside?" "I hope not. But if it becomes an issue, I'll understand if you need to let me go." Frank shook his head. "I asked if it would be a problem, not if you needed to leave. You're a good worker, Logan. That matters more than drama." He paused. "But maybe we move you to morning prep instead of dishes? Less visible, same pay." Logan accepted gratefully. The new position meant arriving at 4 in the morning to prep vegetables and ingredients for the day. It was earlier, harder work, but it kept him out of sight when the diner was busy. Martin called with updates regularly. The new evidence had forced the prosecution to slow down, to re-examine their case. Private investigators were digging into Vincent's background, finding small inconsistencies. A former employee came forward, saying Vincent had pressured them to backdate documents. Another witness recanted part of their testimony, saying they'd been confused about dates. "It's not enough yet," Martin warned. "But we're building something. The case isn't as solid as they thought." At home, life developed a deeper rhythm. Logan's relationship with Rachel moved from friendship to something more without any formal declaration. They held hands while watching TV. He kissed her goodnight before she went to bed. Small intimacies that felt enormous. Sienna adjusted quickly, calling them "my two favorite people," and making elaborate plans for their future that involved pets and trips to the zoo and maybe a house with a yard someday. "Not too big though," she told Logan seriously. "Because then we couldn't see each other as much and we need to be close." "Deal. If we ever get a house, it'll be just the right size." Not if," Sienna corrected. "Mommy says we have to be positive." Rachel enrolled in 2 classes for fall. Anatomy and Physiology 2 and Clinical Nursing Practice. She was nervous but excited, studying at the kitchen table after her shifts while Logan helped her prepare for exams. "I can't believe I'm actually doing this," she said one night, reviewing her notes. "For so long it felt impossible. Like something other people got to do but not me." "Why not you?" "Because." Rachel trailed off, really thinking about it. "Because I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve it? That I'd made too many mistakes, that I was too far behind." "That's ridiculous. You're one of the smartest people I know." "Book smart is different from street smart. I never finished my degree the first time. I got pregnant, married too young, dropped out to support my husband's dreams." She laughed bitterly. "Which he abandoned along with me." Logan moved behind her, massaging her tense shoulders. "His loss. And his stupidity. But you're not that person anymore. You've grown, survived, built an incredible life for yourself and Sienna. Going back to school isn't starting over. It's continuing a journey that got interrupted." Rachel leaned back into him. "When did you get so wise?" "About 6 weeks ago, when a 5-year-old girl told me I looked like a sad prince." They laughed together and Logan marveled at how much had changed. 3 months ago, laughter felt impossible. Now it came easily, naturally, a regular part of his days. One evening, Jerome invited Logan to stay after his shift. "Wanted to show you something," the older man said, leading Logan to his small office. He pulled out an old photo album showing pictures of a younger Jerome in a business suit, standing in front of a restaurant. "That was mine. Before everything fell apart. It looked successful. It was. Until my partner started skimming from the register. I didn't notice until it was too late. By the time the truth came out, the damage was done." Jerome closed the album. But you know what I learned in prison? How to cook. Really cook. Some of the best chefs I've known were doing time. They taught me things my fancy culinary school never did. So you came out and started cooking? Started washing dishes, actually. Just like you. Worked my way up. Now I'm head chef here, and Frank's talking about making me a partner. Jerome smiled. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out what you're really made of. You sound like Rachel. Smart woman. You planning to marry her? Logan blinked at the directness. Oh, we haven't talked about that. Why not? Because I'm broke, facing potential prison time and living on her couch. Not exactly prime marriage material. Jerome snorted. And yet she looks at you like you hung the moon. And you look at her the same way. And that little girl calls you family. Seems to me you're already married in all the ways that matter. The paperwork is just details. Logan thought about that on his walk home. Marriage. Building a future with Rachel and Sienna. It seemed impossible and inevitable at the same time. He had nothing to offer them materially, but maybe that wasn't what they needed. At the apartment, he found Sienna at the kitchen table drawing while Rachel studied. It was their nightly routine, comfortable and peaceful. Logan joined them, pulling out his laptop to review case documents Martin had sent. Mr. Logan, Sienna said without looking up from her drawing. When you and Mommy get married, can I be the flower girl? Rachel's head snapped up. Sienna, where did that come from? You said family is who shows up for each other. Mr. Logan shows up every day. That means he's family. And families get married sometimes. Sienna's logic was unassailable in her own mind. Logan met Rachel's eyes across the table. She looked embarrassed but hopeful. Your mom and I care about each other very much, Logan said carefully. But marriage is a big step. It requires planning and discussion and love. Sienna interrupted. Do you love Mommy? The apartment went very quiet. Rachel held her breath, waiting. Logan could deflect, change the subject by time. But Sienna's question deserved honesty. Yes, Logan said simply. I love your mom very much. And Mommy loves you. I know because she's happy now. Really happy. Not pretend happy. Sienna went back to her drawing. So you should get married. It's simple. Rachel laughed, tears in her eyes. Nothing is simple, baby. But maybe Sienna was right. Maybe they were overcomplicating things. Logan stood, moving to sit beside Rachel. He took her hand. I know the timing is terrible. I know I have nothing to offer you right now. But when this is over, when I've cleared my name, I want to build a life with you and Sienna. If you'll have me. Logan. I'm not proposing. Not officially. Not yet. I want to do it right, with a ring and a plan and some kind of future to offer. But I need you to know, you and Sienna are my future. Everything else is just details. Rachel kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Sienna made gagging sounds but smiled hugely. Okay. But I'm definitely being the flower girl. The next week brought a major development. One of Vincent's former assistants contacted Martin's office, claiming to have evidence of Vincent's fraud. She'd kept copies of original documents before Vincent altered them, afraid she might someday be blamed for irregularities she'd noticed. Why didn't she come forward before? Logan asked Martin on the phone. She was scared. Vincent threatened her, said if she ever talked he'd make sure she never worked again. But after your press conference, after seeing you fight back, she found courage. The documents were exactly what they needed. Original invoices before they were altered, email chains showing Vincent's instructions, bank statements revealing the real flow of money. It wasn't complete proof, but combined with the other evidence, it painted a damning picture. We're filing a motion to dismiss the charges against you, Martin said, excitement clear in his voice. And simultaneously we're filing charges against Vincent. Logan, we might actually win this. Logan sat in the apartment, phone still in hand, trying to process the words. Dismiss the charges. When? Words that had seemed impossible months ago. Rachel came home to find him staring at the wall. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's. He stood, pulling her into his arms. They're filing to dismiss the charges. We have evidence. Real evidence. This might actually be over. Rachel hugged him tight and they stood like that for a long time, just holding each other. Years of struggle, months of fear, weeks of uncertainty, all potentially coming to an end. What happens if they dismiss the charges? Rachel asked quietly. Then I'm free. Clear. I can rebuild. And us? What happens to us? Logan pulled back to look at her. Us doesn't change. Whether the charges are dismissed or not, whether I get my money back or not, I want to be here. With you and Sienna. That's not contingent on anything. But you'll have choices again. Opportunities. You might realize this. She gestured around the small apartment. Isn't what you want. Rachel, look at me. 3 months ago I had everything the world says matters. Money, power, status. I was also miserable, alone, and so focused on the wrong things that I didn't see betrayal happening right under my nose. He cupped her face gently. You gave me something money never could. A real home. Real family. Real love. Why would I walk away from that? Because people do. They say they'll stay, then they leave when something better comes along. Logan realized they weren't just talking about him. They were talking about her ex-husband, about everyone who'd let her down, about all the ways she'd learned not to trust promises. I'm not your ex-husband. I'm not Vincent. I'm not any of the people who hurt you. He pressed his forehead to hers. I'm the guy who washes dishes and makes grilled cheese and loves your daughter like she's my own. That's who I am. That's who I choose to be. Rachel kissed him, desperate and believing, and Logan knew whatever happened next, they'd face it together. The motion to dismiss took 2 weeks to process. During that time, the media coverage shifted. Stories that had painted Logan as a criminal now questioned Vincent's role. Former business associates came forward, saying they'd always had doubts. Investors who'd publicly condemned Logan began quietly reaching out to Martin's office. On a Tuesday morning, Logan's phone rang. Martin. The charges are dismissed. All of them. You're cleared, Logan. Completely cleared. Logan dropped onto the couch, legs suddenly weak. All of them? Every single charge. The judge reviewed the new evidence and agreed there was no case. Vincent's been arrested. The FBI is investigating his finances going back a decade. You're free. Free. The word felt too big, too impossible. Logan had spent months in limbo, life on hold, future uncertain. Now suddenly he could move forward, rebuild, start over. Thank you, Martin. For believing in me. For fighting. Thank you for trusting me. Now go celebrate with your family. Logan picked up Sienna from day camp early, splurging on a taxi because he couldn't wait. She chattered about her day, unaware of the monumental news. At the apartment, Rachel was studying. Logan dropped his bag and crossed to her, picking her up and spinning her around. They dismissed the charges. I'm cleared. It's over. Rachel screamed, actually screamed with joy. Sienna joined in, not fully understanding but caught up in the excitement. They danced around the small apartment, laughing and crying and celebrating. That night, they ordered pizza, a luxury they rarely afforded. Logan told them everything, how the case had fallen apart, how Vincent was now facing the prosecution, how Logan was truly, completely free. What happens now? Sienna asked, tomato sauce on her chin. Now we figure out the future, Logan said, pulling both Rachel and Sienna close. Together. And for the first time in months, the future looked bright. Logan's vindication made headlines everywhere. CEO cleared of all charges, the fall and rise of Logan Mitchell. Justice served, Vincent Torres arrested for corporate fraud. His phone rang constantly with interview requests, job offers, and apologies from people who'd turned their backs on him. He ignored most of them. Instead, he continued his morning shift at the diner. Jerome raised an eyebrow when Logan showed up the day after the dismissal. You know you don't have to work here anymore, right? Your assets are getting unfrozen. You're about to be rich again. I know. But I gave Frank my word I'd work through the month. A man keeps his promises. Jerome smiled. Yeah, you're going to be okay. The first priority was practical. Logan needed a lawyer for the civil aspects of his case. Vincent had stolen millions and Logan wanted every penny back, not for himself but for the investors and employees who'd been hurt. Martin connected him with a firm specializing in asset recovery. The second priority was personal. He needed to have an important conversation with Rachel. They waited until Sienna was in bed, sitting together on the couch that had been Logan's bed for months. Rachel was nervous, he could tell, playing with her hands the way she did when she was worried. You're going to leave, aren't you? She said before he could speak. Now that you have choices again. Actually, I wanted to talk about you leaving. Rachel's head snapped up. What? Your nursing program. The one you've been taking one class at a time because that's all you can afford. What if you could go full-time? Finish in 1 year instead of 3? Logan, I can't afford. But I can. Or I will be able to once my assets are unfrozen. Rachel, let me do this. Let me invest in your future the way you invested in mine. That's not the same. I gave you a couch and some meals. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me family when I had no one. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. Logan took her hands. Please. Let me help you the way you helped me. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I don't want your money. I don't want you to feel like you owe me something. This isn't about owing. It's about investing in people I love. You have a gift for nursing. You're compassionate and smart and dedicated. The world needs more nurses like you. Let me make that possible. And what about us? What happens to us when I'm a working nurse and you're back to being a CEO? We're from different worlds, Logan. We're from the same world now. The world where people work hard and take care of each other and build something real. Logan cupped her face. I'm not going back to who I was. That person was lost, empty, chasing things that didn't matter. I'm building something new now. And I want to build it with you. Rachel kissed him, and he felt her surrender to hope, to possibility, to the future they could create together. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll let you help. But I'm paying you back someday. Deal. Though I should warn you, the interest rate is very high. I'm thinking approximately one dinner a week for the rest of our lives. Rachel laughed through her tears. I think I can manage that. The next morning, Logan met with his lawyers to discuss the asset recovery process. His frozen accounts were being released. The settlement from Vincent's fraud would take time, but preliminary estimates suggested Logan would recover most of what was stolen plus damages. What about the company? Logan asked. What's happening with it now? In receivership. The board is looking for new leadership. There's been some interest from competitors in acquisition. The lawyer paused. You could fight to get it back. You have grounds to reclaim your position. Logan thought about it. The company he'd built from scratch, grown into something significant. Part of him wanted to fight for it, to reclaim what was his. But another part, the part that had learned to make grilled cheese and wash dishes and read bedtime stories, wasn't sure that's what he wanted anymore. Let me think about it, he said finally. That afternoon he walked through his old neighborhood, the area where his penthouse had been. It all felt foreign now, like looking at someone else's life. The expensive shops, the luxury cars, the people in designer clothes rushing to important meetings. It had been his world for so long, but it didn't feel like home. Home was a small apartment with worn furniture and a 5-year-old's drawings on the refrigerator. His phone rang. An unknown number, but something made him answer. Logan Mitchell? Yes. My name is Sarah Chin. I'm with the nonprofit Healthcare Access Initiative. I heard about your case and about how you've been working at a diner and helping a single mother while fighting to clear your name. I have a proposition for you. Sarah explained. Her organization worked to provide healthcare access to underserved communities. They were looking for someone with business experience to help them scale their operations, to turn their good intentions into sustainable impact. I won't lie, the pay is modest compared to what you're used to. But the work matters. And I think you might be exactly who we need. Logan found himself intrigued. This was different from his previous work. This was about impact, not profit. About helping people, not just growing numbers on a spreadsheet. Can I think about it? Of course. Take your time. That evening, Logan told Rachel about both opportunities, reclaiming his company or working for the nonprofit. What do you want to do? She asked. Honestly, the nonprofit sounds more interesting. But I should probably take the company back, rebuild my career properly. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do? Because that's what successful people do. Logan realized she was right. He was defaulting to expectations, to the path he'd always followed, without questioning if it was still the right path. The nonprofit, he said firmly. I want to do work that matters. Rachel smiled. Then that's what you should do. What would you choose? Return to the life you knew or build something new? Sometimes our greatest challenges teach us what truly matters. If this story is touching your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between success and significance? The next week was a blur of practical matters. Logan met with Sarah Chin and accepted the position with Healthcare Access Initiative. The salary was a fraction of what he'd earned before, but it was meaningful work with people who cared about impact. His penthouse apartment, still sealed by court order, was released back to him. Logan walked through it once, looking at the expensive furniture and designer decor. It felt like a museum, like someone else's life preserved in glass. He called Rachel. Can you meet me at my old place? Bring Sienna if she's not in camp. They arrived an hour later, Sienna's eyes wide at the fancy building with its doorman and marble lobby. The penthouse was on the top floor, taking up the entire level. This is where you lived? Rachel asked, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows and the sprawling space. This is where I existed, Logan corrected. I didn't really live here. I slept here sometimes when I wasn't working. But it was never home. Sienna ran from room to room marveling at the size. You could fit our whole apartment in just this one room. Logan knelt down to her level. You're right. It's very big. But here's the thing, big isn't always better. Our apartment is small, but it's full of love. This place was big, but it was empty. So you're not moving back here? No. I'm going to sell it. And I was thinking maybe we could find a place that's just the right size. Big enough for all of us, but not so big we can't find each other. Sienna gasped. You mean we'd live together? Like a real family? If that's okay with your mom. Rachel was crying again, happy tears. More than okay. They spent the afternoon going through Logan's belongings, deciding what to keep and what to donate. Most of the expensive suits went to a charity helping men re-entering the workforce. The furniture would be sold with the apartment. Logan kept only a few meaningful items. His parents' photo, some books, the coffee mug that had shattered the day his life fell apart. Rachel had found the pieces and glued it back together, visible cracks showing where it had broken. It's not perfect anymore, she'd said when she gave it to him. But sometimes broken things are more beautiful because they survived. Over the next month, pieces fell into place. Logan started his new job, working with the Healthcare Access Initiative to build sustainable programs. Rachel began her full-time nursing program, finally able to focus on her studies without the constant stress of multiple jobs. Sienna thrived with the stability of two parents who were present and engaged. They found a house, modest in a good school district with 3 bedrooms and a small yard. Not the mansion Logan could have afforded, but perfect for their family. Sienna picked out paint colors for her room, insisting on bright red walls because red is the color of happiness. Vincent's trial proceeded quickly. The evidence was overwhelming and he was convicted on multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement and falsifying records. The sentencing wouldn't come for months, but Vincent's fall was complete and absolute. Logan felt no satisfaction in his former partner's downfall. Just sadness at the waste of it all, the lives hurt by Vincent's greed. But he also felt grateful. Because Vincent's betrayal, while painful, had led Logan to this moment. Standing in a backyard with Rachel and Sienna, planning a garden, talking about the future. I'm thinking tomatoes here, Rachel said, pointing to a sunny spot. And maybe some herbs. Sienna can help water them. I'll be the best waterer ever, Sienna declared, already imagining her responsibilities. Logan wrapped his arms around both of them, overcome with gratitude for this ordinary, extraordinary life. No power lunches or board meetings. No luxury cars or exclusive clubs. Just a family, a home, work that mattered. Is this what happiness looks like? He murmured to Rachel. She leaned back against him, watching Sienna dance around the yard. This is what love looks like. Happiness is just a side effect. That evening, after Sienna was in bed, Logan and Rachel sat on their new porch, watching fireflies in the yard. I need to tell you something, Logan said. About Vincent's settlement. Okay. The preliminary numbers came back. After legal fees and compensating the investors who were hurt, I'm still looking at recovering about $40 million. Rachel was quiet, processing. That's a lot of money. It is. And I want to do something meaningful with it. I'm setting up a foundation to help people who've been wrongly accused, to provide legal resources and support. And I want to endow a scholarship fund for single parents pursuing nursing degrees. Logan, that's beautiful. But here's the thing, I want you to help me run it. Both the foundation and the scholarship fund. Your experience, your understanding of what people in those situations need, that's invaluable. Will you do it? Rachel turned to face him fully. You want me to help run a foundation? I want you to be my partner. In everything. The foundation, this family, this life. Logan pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. Rachel Williams, will you marry me? Not because I have money again, not because of what we've been through, but because I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life being your partner in all things. Rachel's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming. Yes. Yes, of course, yes. Logan slipped the ring on her finger, and they kissed as the fireflies danced around them, nature's celebration of their commitment. From inside the house, they heard Sienna's voice. Are you getting married now? Can I come see? They laughed and Rachel called, Yes, baby, we're getting married. Sienna appeared at the door in her pajamas, grinning hugely. I told you it was simple. You just needed to figure it out. Logan picked her up, holding both his girls close. You were right, Sienna. It was simple after all. Sometimes the most important things are. And standing there on their porch with his family in his arms and a future full of purpose ahead, Logan Mitchell finally understood what success really meant. It wasn't money or power or status. It was this: people you loved, work that mattered, and gratitude for every single moment. Everything else was just noise. The wedding was small, held in the backyard of their new home on a September afternoon. Just close friends, Jerome and Frank from the diner, Sarah Chin and colleagues from Healthcare Access Initiative, Martin and some of the legal team who'd fought for Logan's freedom. Sienna was indeed the flower girl, wearing a bright red dress she'd picked herself and taking her role very seriously. She walked down the makeshift aisle scattering rose petals with such concentration that guests couldn't help but smile. Rachel was beautiful in a simple white dress, nothing elaborate or expensive, just perfect for who she was. When she appeared at the end of the aisle, Logan felt his breath catch. This woman, who'd taken him in when he had nothing, who'd believed in him when everyone else turned away, was choosing to build a life with him. The ceremony was short and meaningful. They wrote their own vows, speaking from the heart about second chances and families chosen rather than born and the courage it takes to trust again. "I promise to show up," Logan said, holding Rachel's hands. "Every single day. In the good times and the hard times. When things are easy and when they're difficult. I promise to be your partner, your friend, your support. And I promise to love Sienna as my own, to be the father she deserves." Rachel's vows were equally simple and profound. "I promise to believe in you even when you doubt yourself. I promise to build a future with you not because it's safe or easy but because it's real. And I promise to remind you every day that you're enough. Not because of what you achieve or what you provide but because of who you are." When they kissed as husband and wife, Sienna cheered louder than anyone, yelling, "Finally," and making everyone laugh. The reception was casual: barbecue in the backyard, music from a speaker, no formality or pretense. Jerome had insisted on making the wedding cake, a simple but delicious creation that tasted like home. "To new beginnings," Frank toasted. "And to the best dishwasher I ever employed who turned out to be a CEO. "Former CEO, Logan corrected with a smile. "Now I'm just a guy who's really good at solving problems and loves his family." Later, as the sun set and guests mingled, Martin pulled Logan aside. "Vincent's sentencing is next week. Thought you should know." "What are they expecting?" 15 to 20 years. Multiple counts, significant damages, no remorse shown. "He's going away for a long time." Martin paused. "Are you going to attend?" Logan thought about it. Part of him wanted to be there to see justice done. But another part, the part that had healed and moved forward, didn't need that closure. "No. Vincent's already taken enough of my time and energy. I'd rather spend that day with my family." "I understand. For what it's worth, you handled all of this with more grace than most people would have. You should be proud." Logan looked across the yard to where Rachel was dancing with Sienna, both of them laughing. "I am. Just not for the reasons you might think." The following Monday, Logan started his official role as Chief Operating Officer of Healthcare Access Initiative. The office was modest, nothing like the corner suite he'd once occupied, but the work was exhilarating. Their first major project was setting up mobile health clinics in underserved neighborhoods. Logan used his business expertise to create sustainable funding models, to build partnerships with hospitals and clinics, to turn good intentions into actual impact. Rachel joined the team part-time while continuing her nursing studies, providing insight into what patients actually needed versus what administrators thought they needed. Her voice in planning meetings was invaluable, grounding theoretical discussions in practical reality. "We can't just provide services," she explained at one strategy session. "We need to build trust. People in these communities have been let down by systems and institutions over and over. They don't need another organization telling them what they need. They need partners who listen." The team listened to Rachel, implementing her suggestions. And the programs worked. Within 3 months, they'd served over 5,000 patients, providing everything from basic checkups to chronic disease management to mental health support. Logan found satisfaction in this work that he'd never felt in corporate life. Every patient served, every life improved, felt meaningful in a way that profit margins never had. At home they settled into routines. Logan helped Sienna with homework while Rachel studied. They cooked dinner together, all three contributing. Weekends were for family time. Parks, libraries, simple adventures that cost little but meant everything. "Are you happy?" Rachel asked one evening after Sienna was asleep. They were in bed, her head on his chest, his arms around her. "Happier than I've ever been." "Why?" "Just checking. Making sure you don't miss your old life." Logan thought about it honestly. Did he miss the expensive restaurants? The luxury travel? The status and recognition? "Not even a little bit," he said finally. That life was about having things. This life is about being someone. There's no comparison. Being who? A husband. A father. Someone who makes a difference. Someone who shows up. He kissed the top of her head. The person you and Sienna helped me become. Rachel snuggled closer. We just saw who you already were. Under all the corporate armor. Maybe. But you gave me space to be that person. And for that, I'll be grateful every day for the rest of my life. Vincent's sentencing came and went. 22 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for at least 15. The news ran stories about his fall, about how one man's greed had destroyed so many lives. Logan felt nothing watching the coverage. No satisfaction, no vindication, no anger. Vincent was just a sad man who'd made terrible choices and would pay for them. Logan's energy was better spent on building the future than dwelling on the past. The foundation Logan had promised was officially established. The Second Chance Foundation, providing legal resources and support services for people wrongly accused of crimes. They hired lawyers, investigators, and social workers, creating a comprehensive system to help people navigate what Logan had navigated. In the first year they helped 17 people clear their names. 17 lives restored, families reunited, futures reclaimed. Each case felt personal to Logan, a chance to pay forward the second chance he'd been given. The nursing scholarship fund was Rachel's baby. She understood intimately what single parents face trying to better themselves while caring for children. The scholarships covered tuition, books, and even provided childcare assistance. This would have changed my life, she told Logan when they awarded the first scholarships. If I'd had this support years ago, I could have finished my degree, could have provided better for Sienna. You provided just fine. Look at how amazing she is. I know. But it could have been easier. And now, for these recipients, it will be. Logan watched his wife present the scholarships to 10 single parents, saw the tears of gratitude and relief, and felt profound satisfaction. This was what money should be used for. Opening doors, creating opportunities, giving people the chance to build better lives. At work, the Healthcare Access Initiative was growing rapidly. What had started as mobile clinics in 5 neighborhoods expanded to 15, then 30. They added dental services, vision care, mental health counseling. Partners came forward wanting to help. Pharmaceutical companies donating medicine, medical schools providing student volunteers, corporations offering funding. Logan's business background proved invaluable in managing this growth, in keeping the organization true to its mission while scaling sustainably. But he was careful never to lose sight of the individual people they served. Once a month, he spent a day at one of the mobile clinics talking to patients, understanding their needs, making sure the organization stayed connected to its purpose. One day, a young woman came in with her daughter. The girl was maybe 3 with a persistent cough that worried her mother. I've been trying to get her seen for weeks, the mother explained. But we don't have insurance and the emergency room is so expensive. I was so relieved when I heard about your clinic. Logan watched the nurse practitioner examine the child, write a prescription, explain follow-up care. All provided at no cost, with dignity and respect. The mother cried with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you so much. You don't know what this means. But Logan did know. He understood what it felt like to need help, to be at the mercy of others' kindness. That experience had changed him fundamentally, had taught him that vulnerability isn't weakness and that accepting help with grace is its own form of strength. As months passed, Logan's complete vindication spread through business circles. Job offers came regularly, CEO positions, board memberships, consulting opportunities. Each one came with impressive titles and even more impressive salaries. Logan turned them all down. Don't you want to rebuild your career? One headhunter asked, confused by his refusals. You could be running a Fortune 500 company again. I'm already doing exactly what I want to be doing, Logan replied. My career doesn't need rebuilding. It needed redirecting. And I found the right direction. At home, Rachel graduated from her nursing program with honors. Logan and Sienna sat in the audience, cheering louder than anyone when she walked across the stage. That evening, they celebrated with takeout from the diner where Logan had washed dishes. Jerome had made a special cake, decorated with a stethoscope and the words, Nurse Rachel. I'm so proud of you, Logan told his wife, holding her close. You did this. Against all odds, juggling everything, you made it happen. We made it happen. I couldn't have done this without you watching Sienna, supporting me, believing in me. Rachel smiled. We're a good team. The best team. Rachel started her first nursing job at a community hospital, working in the emergency room. It was hard work, emotional and physically demanding, but she came home energized rather than depleted. I love it, she told Logan after her first week. Every patient I help, every person I can comfort or care for, it feels like exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I know the feeling, Logan said, thinking of his own work. One evening, Sienna asked, Dad, can I ask you something? It was the first time she'd called him Dad instead of Mr. Logan. Logan felt his throat tighten with emotion. Of course, sweetheart. What is it? Do you ever miss being rich? Like really rich, with the fancy apartment and the expensive stuff? Logan thought about how to answer honestly. Sometimes I miss the ease of it. Not worrying about money, being able to buy whatever I wanted. But you know what I don't miss? I don't miss the person I was when I had all that. I was so focused on success that I forgot to be human. I forgot what actually matters. What actually matters? This. You and your mom. Work that helps people. Coming home to a family I love. Those things matter way more than any amount of money ever could. Sienna nodded seriously. That's what I thought. Because you seem way happier now than in the pictures from before. In those old pictures you looked fancy. Logan surprised Rachel on their anniversary with a trip back to the women's shelter where she'd stayed with baby Sienna years ago. But this time they weren't seeking help. They were giving it. I don't understand, Rachel said as they pulled up to the familiar building. Why are we here? Because this place saved you when you needed it most. And I wanted to give back. Logan handed her an envelope. Open it. Inside was a check made out to the shelter for $250,000, along with documents establishing an ongoing partnership between the shelter and the Second Chance Foundation. Rachel's hands shook as she read. Logan, this is too much. It's not nearly enough. This place gave you and Sienna safety when you had nowhere else to go. It's part of why I have a family now. How could any amount be too much? They went inside together, meeting with the director, a woman named Patricia who remembered Rachel from years ago. I knew you'd make it, Patricia said, hugging Rachel tight. You had that determination, that fire. I could see it even when you couldn't. I almost gave up so many times, Rachel admitted. But you didn't. And now look at you, a registered nurse, married, giving back. You're exactly the success story we hope for with every woman who walks through our doors. They spent the afternoon touring the facility, meeting current residents, hearing their stories. Each woman had her own journey of hardship and hope, her own reasons for being there, her own dreams for the future. Logan found himself talking with a young mother named Kelly who'd fled an abusive relationship with her 2 children. She reminded him so much of Rachel, scared but determined, broke but hopeful. What's next for you? Logan asked. I want to go back to school. Maybe become a teacher. But I don't know how I'll manage it with the kids and work and everything. Kelly looked embarrassed. Sorry, you probably don't want to hear all this. Actually, I do. What if I told you there's a scholarship fund specifically for single parents pursuing degrees? Would you be interested? Kelly's eyes widened. Are you serious? Logan handed her a card for the scholarship fund. Apply. Let us help you build your future. As they drove home that evening, Sienna asleep in the back seat, Rachel reached over and squeezed Logan's hand. Thank you. For today, for everything. For understanding what that place means to me. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. You rebuilt your entire life from nothing. That's more impressive than anything I ever did in business. We both rebuilt. Together. At work, the Healthcare Access Initiative received news that a major philanthropic organization wanted to partner with them, providing funding to expand nationally. It would mean more clinics, more services, more people helped. But it would also mean more responsibility, more time commitment, more travel. Logan would need to be the face of the expansion, doing presentations and pitches and networking. Sarah Chun called a meeting with Logan to discuss. This is a huge opportunity. We could help millions of people. But I need to know you're all in. Logan thought about the increased travel, the time away from Rachel and Sienna. Can I think about it? Of course. Take a few days. That night, Logan discussed it with Rachel. Part of me wants to do it. The impact would be incredible. But part of me doesn't want to become that person again, the one who's always working, always traveling, never present. What does your gut say? That I can do this without becoming who I was. That I've learned how to balance work and life in ways I didn't understand before. Logan paused. But I need to know you're okay with it. With me traveling more, being busier. Rachel considered carefully. I think you should do it. But with boundaries. No more than 1 week of travel per month. Regular family dinners that are sacred, no work calls during them. And you need to promise that if you start to feel like you're slipping back into old patterns, you'll tell me. I promise. All of those things I promise. Logan accepted the expansion role with the agreed-upon boundaries. Over the next 6 months, Healthcare Access Initiative opened clinics in 12 new cities. Logan traveled for presentations but never more than a week at a time. He always called Sienna before bed no matter what time zone he was in. The work was exhilarating but exhausting. Logan found himself relying heavily on the skills he'd developed in his previous corporate life: strategic planning, resource allocation, team building. But he applied them with a different mindset now, always asking, "Who does this serve?" before, "What's the return on investment?" During one trip to Atlanta, Logan was presenting at a healthcare conference when he saw a familiar face in the audience. It took him a moment to place it, then recognition hit. Robert Sterling, the tech billionaire who'd come into the diner months ago. After the presentation, Robert approached. "Logan Mitchell? Is that really you?" "Robert, it's been a while. I heard what happened with Vincent. I'm sorry I didn't reach out, didn't offer support. I should have." Logan shrugged. "Water under the bridge. Everyone chose their path. I understand why people distanced themselves. Still, it was cowardly. And wrong." Robert gestured to the presentation materials. "This is incredible work you're doing. Healthcare access for underserved communities, it's exactly what this country needs." "Thank you. It's been rewarding. Listen, I want to help. My foundation has been looking for healthcare partners. Could we talk about potential collaboration?" Logan found it ironic that the same people who'd abandoned him in crisis now wanted to partner when he was successful again. But he also knew that cynicism wouldn't help anyone. If Robert's money could help more people access healthcare, did his motives really matter? "I'd be open to a conversation," Logan said carefully. "But I should be clear, this isn't about publicity or tax write-offs. Our organization serves real people with real needs. Any partnership has to honor that." "Understood. I'll have my team reach out." Flying home that night, Logan reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, Robert's presence would have intimidated him, made him feel inferior. Now he felt like an equal, confident in his work and his worth, regardless of net worth comparisons. At home, Rachel was waiting up despite the late hour. "How did it go?" "Good. Really good. We might have a major new partner." Logan told her about Robert Sterling's offer. "The guy from the diner? Small world. Right? But here's the thing, I wasn't intimidated. I wasn't trying to impress him. I just presented our work and let it speak for itself." Rachel smiled. "That's because you know your value now. Not your financial value, your actual value as a person. That's worth more than any bank account." As fall turned to winter, life found a rhythm. Logan traveled for work but always came home. Rachel excelled in her nursing job, often coming home with stories of patients she'd helped. Sienna thrived in school, bringing home excellent grades and a constant stream of artwork. They celebrated Thanksgiving with Jerome, Frank, and some of the staff from the diner. Christmas was simple: a modest tree, homemade gifts, focus on time together rather than expensive presents. "This is my favorite Christmas ever," Sienna declared, playing with the dollhouse Logan had built for her by hand. It wasn't store-bought or expensive, but it was made with love, and that made it priceless. In January, Vincent's appeal was denied. He would serve his full sentence with no reduction. The news was barely a blip in Logan's consciousness. Vincent belonged to the past, to a version of Logan's life that felt increasingly distant. The present and future were what mattered now. The Second Chance Foundation helped its 50th person clear their name, a single father who'd been wrongly accused of theft and had spent 3 years fighting the charges. Watching him reunite with his kids, seeing the relief and joy on their faces, Logan felt tears in his eyes. "You did that," Rachel said softly, standing beside him. "You turned your pain into purpose. You took what happened to you and used it to help other people. That's heroic. It's just the right thing to do. Maybe. But a lot of people wouldn't do it. They'd stay bitter, stay focused on their own trauma. You chose differently." That night, Logan lay in bed thinking about Rachel's words. He had been bitter, had been focused on his own pain. But somewhere along the way, through the love of a woman and a child, through the simple act of showing up day after day, he transformed that bitterness into something productive. Pain into purpose. Trauma into mission. Losing everything into finding what actually mattered. In February, the Healthcare Access Initiative won a major humanitarian award. Logan was asked to give the acceptance speech at a gala in Washington, D.C. He almost declined, uncomfortable with the attention and recognition. But Sarah convinced him. "This isn't about you. It's about the work. And accepting this award gives us a platform to talk about healthcare inequity, to reach people who can help us expand further. Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable for the greater good. So Logan went, bringing Rachel and Sienna with him. They stayed in a nice hotel, attended the gala in formal wear. Sienna was enchanted by the fancy dresses and the ballroom. "It's like a fairy tale," she whispered, eyes wide. Logan gave his speech, talking not about himself but about the patients they served. He told stories of real people: the young mother who finally got her daughter's asthma treated, the elderly man who received cataract surgery and could see clearly for the first time in years, the teenager who got mental health counseling that literally saved his life. "Healthcare isn't a privilege," Logan concluded. "It's a basic human right. And until every person in this country can access quality care regardless of their ability to pay, our work isn't done. This award isn't a finish line. It's fuel to keep going." The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of people approached, wanting to partner, to donate, to help. Logan exchanged cards and made promises to follow up, but his mind was already back home, already thinking about the next clinic opening, the next patient served. At the hotel that night, after Sienna was asleep in the adjoining room, Rachel and Logan stood on the balcony overlooking the city. "You were brilliant tonight," Rachel said. "The way you spoke about the work, the passion in your voice. I was so proud. I was terrified. All those important people, all that attention. But you did it anyway. That's courage." Logan pulled her close. "I learned from the best. You've been brave every single day since I met you. Working 2 jobs, raising a daughter alone, taking in a stranger who could have been dangerous. If that's not courage, I don't know what is. We're both brave. We're brave together." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other, looking out at the city lights. A year and a half ago, Logan had stood on a similar balcony in his penthouse, alone and empty despite all his success. Now he stood in a hotel in a borrowed tuxedo, and felt richer than he'd ever been. Because he had everything that mattered: love, purpose, family, and the knowledge that his life meant something beyond profit margins and stock prices. "Ready to go home?" Rachel asked eventually. "Always. Home is my favorite place to be." And he meant it. Home wasn't a building or a location. Home was wherever Rachel and Sienna were. Home was the life they'd built together from nothing, the love that had saved him when he was broken, the family that had given him a second chance. Everything else was just details. The important stuff, the real stuff, he already had. And he would spend the rest of his life being grateful for it. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and new beginnings. Logan stood in the backyard of their home, watching Sienna plant tomato seeds in the garden they'd prepared together. She was 7 now, growing taller and smarter every day, but still the same kind-hearted girl who'd seen a crying stranger and insisted on helping. "Dad, do you think the tomatoes will be red or green?" she asked, patting soil over the seeds with serious concentration. "They'll start green and turn red when they're ready," Logan explained. "Kind of like how people grow and change." Sienna considered this with the philosophical depth she'd developed. "Like how you grew from sad Mr. Logan to happy dad?" Logan laughed, ruffling her hair. "Exactly like that." Inside, Rachel was preparing for her shift at the hospital. She'd been promoted to charge nurse, leading her emergency room team with the same compassion and competence she brought to everything. Logan watched her through the kitchen window, still amazed that this incredible woman had chosen him. His phone buzzed with a message from Sarah Chin. "Board meeting at 2 p.m. Important announcement." At the Healthcare Access Initiative office, Logan arrived to find the entire leadership team gathered. Sarah stood at the head of the table, practically glowing with excitement. "We've received the largest single donation in our organization's history," she announced. "Robert Sterling's foundation is giving us $50 million to establish a permanent endowment. We'll be able to expand to all 50 states within 5 years." The room erupted in cheers. Logan felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of it. $50 million meant thousands upon thousands of patients served, lives saved, futures changed. "There's one condition," Sarah continued, looking directly at Logan. "Robert wants to meet with you personally. He says he has something to discuss." They met for coffee the next week at a quiet cafe. Robert looked older than Logan remembered, tired but purposeful. "Thank you for meeting with me," Robert said. "I know our last real interaction was years ago, before everything happened with Vincent. I've been wanting to apologize properly." "Robert, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. When the accusations came out, I believed them without question. I cut you off completely, wouldn't take your calls. I was more worried about my reputation than about finding the truth. That was wrong." Logan appreciated the apology but found he didn't need it as much as Robert seemed to need to give it. "I understand. The evidence looked convincing. Most people reacted the same way. But we shouldn't have. You were a colleague, supposedly a friend. We should have at least listened to your side. Robert stirred his coffee absently. Watching what you've done since then, the Healthcare Access Initiative, the Second Chance Foundation, the Scholarship Fund, it's made me realize something. You're doing more good now than you ever did as a CEO. Than most of us are doing with all our wealth. I'm just trying to make a difference. And you are. Which is why I wanted to talk. My company, Sterling Technologies, we need new leadership. Our current CEO is retiring. I'd like you to consider coming back to the corporate world. As our CEO. Logan felt like he'd been transported back in time. A year ago, this offer would have been everything he'd wanted. Vindication, a return to power, proof that he belonged at the top. Now it just felt wrong. Robert, I'm honored. Truly. But I have to decline. The compensation package would be extremely generous. 8 figures, full benefits, stock options. It's not about money. It's about purpose. I love what I'm doing. I love knowing that my work directly helps people who need it. Going back to corporate leadership would mean giving that up. Robert looked surprised but nodded slowly. I understand. And honestly, that response just confirms you're exactly the kind of person we need. But if you won't take the CEO role, would you at least join our board? Help guide us toward more socially responsible practices. That Logan could agree to. Being on Sterling Technologies' board would give him a platform to advocate for ethical business practices, to push for corporate responsibility and community investment. I'll join the board. But I maintain my role with Healthcare Access Initiative. That's non-negotiable. Deal. They shook hands and Logan felt satisfied with the compromise. He could influence corporate culture without abandoning the work he loved. That evening he told Rachel about the offer and his decision. You don't regret it? She asked. Turning down being a CEO again? Not for a second. That life, it looks impressive from the outside. But I know what it costs. Time with family, peace of mind, sometimes your soul. I'm not willing to pay that price anymore. What if you could do both? Be a CEO and maintain balance. Maybe some people can. But I know myself now. I know how I get when work becomes my identity instead of just what I do. I don't want to be that person again. Rachel kissed him softly. I love that you know yourself well enough to make that choice. In May, Sienna School had a career day where parents came to talk about their jobs. Logan went along with Rachel and they spoke together about their work. Logan talked about helping organizations serve people better, about using business skills for social good. Rachel talked about nursing, about being there for people on their worst days and helping them through. But the real impact came when Sienna stood up at the end and said, My parents taught me that the best job is one where you help people. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, fancy or regular. What matters is that you make the world a little bit better. 7 years old, Logan thought, and she already understood what it had taken him 42 years to learn. The teacher asked parents to share defining moments in their careers. Logan thought about all the business deals he'd closed, the companies he'd acquired, the millions he'd made. None of those felt like defining moments anymore. My defining moment, Logan said slowly, was when I lost everything. My company, my money, my reputation. I ended up on a sidewalk in the rain with nowhere to go. And a little girl and her mother stopped to help me. They didn't know who I was. They didn't care about my past. They just saw someone who needed help. He looked at Sienna, saw her beaming with pride. That little girl is my daughter now. And that day when she insisted her mother help a crying stranger, that was when my real life began. Everything before was just preparation for that moment. Rachel reached over and squeezed his hand, eyes shining with tears. The summer was busy but fulfilling. The Healthcare Access Initiative opened clinics in 15 new cities. The Second Chance Foundation helped 23 people clear their names. The Scholarship Fund sent 45 single parents back to school. Logan traveled for work but never missed Sienna's soccer games or Rachel's important moments. They'd found the balance that had eluded him in his previous life. Work that mattered without work consuming everything. In August, on the 2-year anniversary of the day they'd met on that rainy sidewalk, Logan organized a surprise for Rachel and Sienna. He took them back to that exact spot, the place where his old life had ended and his new life had begun. Why are we here? Rachel asked, confused. Because this is where everything changed. Where you saw someone who needed help and decided to help him. Where Sienna's kindness saved a man's life. Logan knelt down in front of both of them. I wanted to come back here to say thank you. Not just for that day but for every day since. For believing in me, for loving me, for showing me what actually matters. From his pocket, Logan pulled out a small box. Inside were two necklaces, each with a small charm. A heart for Rachel, a star for Sienna. The heart represents love, which you both gave me when I had nothing. The star represents hope, which you both brought into my life when everything was dark. He put the necklaces on them, his hands shaking slightly with emotion. You saved me. Both of you. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that gift. Rachel was crying, Sienna too. They stood on that sidewalk, the three of them holding each other, and Logan felt the circle complete. From that lowest moment to this highest one, from losing everything to having everything that mattered. You already are worthy, Rachel whispered. You show us every single day. They walked home together, hand in hand, talking about the future. Sienna wanted to be a doctor who helped people. Rachel was considering teaching nursing eventually, passing on what she'd learned. Logan wanted to expand the foundation's work, to help even more people rebuild their lives. That night, after Sienna was asleep, Logan and Rachel sat on their porch swing, listening to crickets and watching fireflies. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Vincent hadn't betrayed you? Rachel asked. Sometimes. I'd probably still be a CEO, probably still be alone, probably still be chasing success without ever finding satisfaction. Logan pulled her closer. I'd have missed out on the best thing that ever happened to me. You can't mean that. Vincent destroyed your life. He destroyed a life I was living. But he couldn't destroy me. And in the destruction, I found room to build something better. Logan turned to face her fully. I'm not saying I'm glad he betrayed me. The pain was real, the fear was real. But I'm grateful for where it led me. For you, for Sienna, for this life we've built. Rachel leaned her head on his shoulder. That's a beautiful way to look at it. It's the truth. The old Logan Mitchell died on that sidewalk in the rain. This Logan Mitchell, the one who loves you and Sienna, who finds joy in helping people, who measures success by impact instead of income, he was born the moment Sienna insisted her mother help a crying stranger. They sat in comfortable silence, swinging gently, and Logan felt profound peace. Not the peace of having no problems, but the peace of knowing what mattered and living in alignment with those values. His phone buzzed with an email. The board of Sterling Technologies was formally inviting him to join, starting next month. It would mean quarterly meetings, strategic planning sessions, influence over a major corporation's direction. But it wouldn't change his core work, wouldn't take him away from his family, wouldn't compromise what he'd built. Good news? Rachel asked, seeing his expression. Just confirmation of the board position. It's official. How do you feel? Grateful. I get to influence corporate practices, push for social responsibility, maybe help other companies see that profit and purpose don't have to be mutually exclusive. Logan smiled. And I get to do it while staying true to what matters. This family, this life, this purpose. That's my husband, Rachel said proudly. Changing the world one board meeting at a time. They laughed together and Logan marveled at how natural this felt. Marriage, family, partnership. Things that had seemed impossible during his corporate life now felt like the most natural things in the world. A car pulled up outside their house. Logan recognized it. Martin, his lawyer, who rarely visited unannounced. Logan, sorry to drop by like this. But I have news that couldn't wait. Martin looked excited, almost giddy. Vincent's been cooperating with investigators. In exchange for a slightly reduced sentence, he's given up information about other corporate fraud schemes he knew about. One of them involves your old company. What do you mean? The board that bought your company after Vincent's conviction? Turns out they were involved in their own fraudulent practices. The company's being dissolved, assets liquidated. And as the original founder with clear proof you had no knowledge of any wrongdoing, you're entitled to compensation. Significant compensation. Logan felt dizzy. How significant? Preliminary estimates put it at around $120 million. Maybe more once everything's sorted out. Rachel gasped. Logan couldn't process the number. It was more than he'd had even before Vincent's betrayal. It was generational wealth, enough to never work again, enough to do anything they wanted. But Logan already knew what he wanted to do. Martin, I need you to set something up. I want the majority of that money to go into trust funds. One for expanding the Healthcare Access Initiative, one for growing the Second Chance Foundation, one for increasing the scholarship fund. I want to keep enough for our family to be secure, for Sienna's education, for emergencies. But the rest goes to helping people. Martin smiled. I thought you might say that. I'll draw up the paperwork. After Martin left, Rachel turned to Logan with wonder in her eyes. You're sure? That's a lot of money to give away. I'm absolutely sure. We don't need $100 million to be happy. We're already happy. But think of how many lives that money can change. How many mobile clinics we can open, how many wrongly accused people we can help, how many single parents we can send to school. You're amazing, Rachel whispered. No, I'm just finally figuring out what money is actually for. It's not for accumulating or hoarding or proving your worth. It's a tool for making the world better. And I finally have the wisdom to use it that way. They told Sienna the next morning, explaining it in terms she could understand. They had received a lot of money, and they were going to use most of it to help people. Like superhero money? Sienna asked. Exactly like superhero money, Logan confirmed. Good. Because helping people is what superheroes do. Over the next months, the settlement was finalized. Logan and Rachel worked with lawyers and financial advisors to structure the trusts properly, to ensure the money would be used effectively and responsibly. They kept $5 million for themselves. Enough to pay off the house, establish college funds for Sienna, create a safety net. The rest, over $115 million, went into the trusts for the three organizations. The Healthcare Access Initiative could now expand to every state, opening permanent facilities instead of just mobile clinics. The Second Chance Foundation could hire more lawyers and investigators, help more people faster. The scholarship fund could support thousands of single parents instead of dozens. At the press conference announcing the donation, reporters asked Logan why he was giving away such a fortune. Because keeping it would be selfish, Logan said simply. I have everything I need. A family I love, work that matters, a comfortable home. Everything beyond that is extra. And that extra can either sit in an account making me richer, or it can help thousands of people build better lives. The choice seems obvious. Don't you worry about the future? What if you need that money someday? Logan thought about the question. 2 years ago, he would have worried constantly about security, about having enough, about protecting his wealth. Now he had different priorities. I've learned that true security doesn't come from having millions in the bank. It comes from having people who love you, purpose that fulfills you, and the knowledge that you're living in alignment with your values. I have all those things. So no, I don't worry about the future. The press conference ended and Logan went home to his family. That evening they did what they always did. Cooked dinner together, helped Sienna with homework, read bedtime stories, talked about their days. Nothing had changed despite the windfall. They were still the same family, living the same life, finding joy in the same simple things. That was by design. As Logan tucked Sienna into bed that night, she looked up at him with her serious eyes. Dad, are you happy? The happiest I've ever been. Why do you ask? Just checking. Because you were so sad when I first met you. I wanted to make sure you stayed happy. Logan kissed her forehead. I will always be happy as long as I have you and your mom. You two are my happiness. We love you too, Dad. Even when you were poor and sad, we loved you. And we'll love you forever. Forever is exactly how long I'll love you back. After Sienna fell asleep, Logan joined Rachel on the porch swing. It had become their evening ritual, this quiet time together after the day's demands. 2 years, Rachel said softly. 2 years ago you had nothing. Now you have everything again. But somehow, I don't think you see it that way. You're right. I don't see it as having everything again. I see it as having everything for the first time. Logan took her hand. Before I had money and status. Now I have love and purpose. Those aren't the same thing. No, they're not. They swung gently, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the distance, they heard children playing, life continuing in its ordinary and extraordinary way. Do you have any regrets? Rachel asked. About how things turned out? Logan thought honestly about the question. Did he regret trusting Vincent? Regret building a company that ultimately failed? Regret the pain and fear of those early months? No regrets, he said finally. Because every step, even the painful ones, led me here. To you, to Sienna, to this life. And I wouldn't trade this life for anything. Not even to go back and prevent Vincent's betrayal? Not even for that. Because preventing it would mean I never ended up on that sidewalk in the rain. I never met a little girl who saw someone in pain and insisted on helping. I never found the family I didn't know I needed. Logan squeezed Rachel's hand. I'd go through it all again just to end up right here, right now, with you. Rachel leaned against him and they sat in peaceful silence. After a while she said, You know what I think? I think kindness saved you. Not my kindness or Sienna specifically, but the concept of kindness itself. The willingness to help someone who can't help themselves. The decision to see humanity in a stranger. You're right. Kindness did save me. And now I get to spend the rest of my life paying that kindness forward. As the stars brightened overhead and the night deepened around them, Logan Mitchell felt complete. Not because he'd regained his wealth or cleared his name or achieved success again, but because he'd learned what actually mattered, what was actually worth building a life around. Well, family, purpose, kindness, everything else was just details. And those details, while nice to have, would never be as valuable as what he already possessed. The love of a good woman, the trust of a sweet child, the satisfaction of work that helped people, and the wisdom to know the difference between having everything and having enough. He had enough. More than enough. He had everything that mattered. And that, Logan realized as he held his wife under the stars, was the only success worth achieving. The only wealth worth accumulating. The only legacy worth leaving behind. Not money in a bank account, but love multiplied in the world. Not power over others, but empowerment of others. Not status or recognition, but quiet dignity and purpose. From the depths of loss to the heights of fulfillment, Logan Mitchell's journey had come full circle. And he stood at the center of that circle, arms around his family, heart full of gratitude, and knew with absolute certainty that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Home. Not just a place, but a state of being. Home in his heart. Home in his purpose. Home in the love of the two people who'd saved him when he was broken and had stayed with him as he became whole. This was the happy ending. Not perfect but real. Not easy but earned. And it was more than enough. It was everything.